launch party for his latest book, My Brother's Keeper. Definitely check that out. But thank you so much, Andrew Givler, for coming back on solo. I really appreciate you helping us with Ben's launch, and I'm so excited to talk Soul Fraud and Ironbound and just to kind of pick your brain today. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for
dude.
hopping on and chatting.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime.
It was a ton of fun for Ben's thing, and Ben was like, "Hey, if you ever want to go on, they'd love to have you." And I was like, "Me?"
I texted him like right after. I was like, can you tell Andrew this for me? Because that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I've been bugging him about Soul Fraud for like literally. It's like
He was the first
best book
person to blurb
October.
it. Ben was the
Yeah,
first person to ever blurb it. So yeah, that was.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's like what for me that's on my list. I am slowly knocking back reviews for the channel. So that one's like high on my list to get back to. Yeah, so I'm like really, really excited to review that. I've been talking a lot about you and
I
Soul
appreciate
Fraud
it.
on
I appreciate
here.
it.
Yeah, so I was really happy, that you came to the launch party. I was like, sweet. So I was like, it's a nice way for our audience, to kind of come in and, if they haven't read your books yet, if they don't know what's going on in urban
And there's so
fantasy.
many. There's so many
Yeah,
books.
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, yeah. Well, I had a couple people ask me. They're like, "Who is that?" I was like, "Yeah." So I was able to, direct them towards, your website
That's awesome.
and Soul Fraud, Ironbound, that kind of thing. So
I do have a
but
website. I should probably update that.
I thought it looked really good, personally.
No, I know, but I don't think the two most recent books are up there.
Yeah, they are not.
Yeah.
So I actually added them to. I think I used your Amazon page actually
Perfect.
specifically
Oh, thank
to add
you.
them,
Yeah.
to this description
Because I
so
just
people can
realized.
more easily find them.
I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. You've reminded me of something I haven't done. Great. I've been here and you've already reminded me of work I have to do.
Well, I have my updated novella cover and I haven't finished it yet. And I was like, I want to do a reveal, but I was like, now we got other stuff going on. So it's been kind of hard to figure out. So we have a meeting tomorrow for a project I'm in to trying to decide, like where we're going to dart that thing date wise. Cause for me, I'm like, I kind of like to get my personal book out there ahead of time this summer. So I'm like trying to just kind of pick dates and stuff. So I totally understand because people go,
So
can
many
I go to your
moving parts,
website?
dude.
Yeah. Well, they're like,
There's
can I
so
go to your
many.
website? I'm like, sure. Why not? I'm like,
Yeah.
but it's not been updated because I haven't revealed anything else
You
yet.
can, but
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, just go to the Facebook. It's totally fine.
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Here we go. Hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining. I hope that chat popped to you too, Andrew.
Oh yes. Let me see. I found it. There we go.
Go.
You're cool. Yep, got it.
Pop. Thank you
Yeah,
so
we
much.
got Pop.
Appreciate you showing up. That's awesome.
Oh, now
I was
think
wondering why it
I
wasn't
owe
popping
Pop
up.
a message. There we go. Yep. See, this is what happens. I just always have more things to do.
That's why you said yes. I was like, okay. I was like, I know he's busy, but I was like, I'm gonna just like pop it.
Yeah,
in.
but like, this is fun.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair.
I should be editing right now, but whatever. It's fine.
Dude, I have to edit so much right now.
Yeah.
I have a couple people, they're like waiting on me for a story, and I'm like, yeah, I will get it to you this weekend. I said, I'm on with Andrew tonight. I promise you I will get you it tomorrow. I have like 3 paragraphs. I just have to like add and iron out. I was like, I promise. I was like, I'm gonna have some fun first. But Andrew, I got done with Soul Fraud in particular. And I had I'd seen you come up on Facebook quite a bit. Particularly like I'd say like last year, probably like the summer before. Yeah.
There we go. The product.
you were like taking over social media, dude. Like it was awesome. And then I just saw cover after cover after cover. And I was like, man, these look awesome. But that first cover to me for Soul Fraud really looked cool. And I was using it as an example on here. I was like, hey, if you really want to know, and people are messaging me privately, they're always like, hey, what do you look for, right? Like as a podcaster, as an author, like who do you try to be like, in terms of product and things like that and how you're showcasing. And I was like, Andrew Givler is a really great example, in terms of Soul Fraud. I really liked the cover, the blurb had me. I got to say, man, yeah, like right off the bat, that book like had me. And my partner at the time for school, my co-teacher, he was like, what are you doing? Because I was just like going in the hallway reading it in between classes. I was like, and it was like during finals. I was like, I got to get through this book. I was like, I really want to get there. But yeah, that one like got me instantly. So I know a lot of people, will really appreciate that. But people always ask me, what do you look for? I'm like, great cover, 60%, I think, getting you in. And then I think personally for me, it's 30% going into that blurb at least. And then from there, I don't look at reviews personally, but I actually look at what the next book is. That's just how I am. I've gotten shafted on reviews before where I thought, oh, okay, and then I go or I get an Audible code, or something, or get the book on, on a deal, and then all of a sudden I'm like, man, I really enjoyed this story. So I found out my taste pretty quickly. But yeah, I was like,
reviews
yep,
are so relative.
My thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I did a reel the other day, which you may or may not have seen, but it was, I was talking about that, and I took 2 reviews that on Ironbound were on the exact same day. Somebody left a 1-star and a 5-star, and they were both commenting on how the pacing was, right? Like one person was like, this book is nonstop. It gripped me from the very beginning, and I couldn't put it down. 5 stars. And the other person was 1 star, and they were like, I read 100 pages and I'm not into it and I'm out, right? And my whole point was that like books are for everyone, but not every book is for everybody, right? And I look at reviews in a like mild temperature gauge.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If something's between a 4.5 and a 4.3 and a 4.7, that means it's a book, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, all right, sure. That doesn't tell me anything about it except that it works for a certain audience at some point. Am I that audience? I have no idea. But yeah, so that makes total sense to me.
What was just say is like some of these older books, like I won't say which, but like there's some older fantasy books that were really popular, right? And now like more people get to them and they're starting, to put them
they don't age very well, right?
Age very well, So, but even just like pacing and things like that, so like even then, right? If I find an older book used or something, I don't even look at the reviews then, right? Because I'm like, if it's a 3.5, it might be that one, like David Eddings, right? Crappy human in my personal opinion, but really great author. So I didn't know that till I was completely done, with all of his books. But that was like one where I was just like, all right, whatever, but like I thought it was really good. There was another very famous author that is no longer alive. Did not like how he treated people personally at cons or artists, things like that. But amazing, author. I tend to still read those books. I just don't review them or buy them from the store. I buy them used, but I was just like trying to look at craft and stuff. But to me, as a history teacher, it's also kind of interesting.
Absolutely.
But trends, right? And I always see it as like kind of snapshots. But I wonder that, right? Like, is that how our books are going to be in
eventually
30 years?
Well, and we're using like, places like Goodreads didn't really exist.
That's true.
In those eras, right? So it may be that like, it doesn't shift as much now, but that's because like the reviews are archived from a certain era, and not. I mean, I looked the other day just out of morbid curiosity. I think that was wild to me is Jim Butcher's Stormfront actually has a 3 on Goodreads,
and I love that book.
Sure, but I mean, I think there's some parts of it that it was written 1999, right? And it was the father of a genre. Like, exactly. Yeah. And so like I could totally understand somebody picking it up today and it not hitting as well as it did in the moment. Yeah. But I was like, but that's crazy. Like that's so, artificially low compared to like where it was reviewed at the time.
Because it was a New York Times bestseller, right?
So, but also like it spawned a genre, right? Like that's like the beginning of like Supernatural, like everything that like for the next like decade that came out, I think really came from that. And but sure, now that Goodreads came out in the thousands, it's not the same, right? Like
now that more people have, you're right actually, because now that more people have an account, but you're making me feel better about not looking at reviews, really, because I'm just like, okay, well, like it's like Brandon Sanderson, right? Like how I looked at how many, statistically speaking, how horrible reviews he has, and he has more than anybody because he has more reviews, on the most part. And he somebody asked him 2 years ago over the summer, and I thought it was so funny at a con, and he was like, I don't pay attention to those ones. He goes, I'm only paying attention to my bank account and the bank account of the people that work for me, and my kids. And I was like, that's fair. Like,
I think that's really all you can do. There's this even from like doing YouTube for as long as I have. There's a thing that happens where you like once you go outside of your audience, there's like 2 stages of reviews, right? There are the people who like what I do, who are familiar with what I do. Like if a video only goes out to them, they're gonna like it, right? Your likes, your reviews, whatever, all gonna be positive. And then like when it breaks containment, you have something that goes viral. It goes like beyond like that small microcosm. You get like colder audiences that are like, what is this? Like what?
Yeah, then that's when you get the dislikes on YouTube, right?
Soul Fraud for a while before it didn't get any traction. Like it did really. I don't know how to talk about, like, it did really well for a brand new author, but it did also, I was cheating, right? I had an audience. In terms of like breaking into like the book sphere, it did not get a lot of momentum until recently. And so at the beginning, I think it had like a 4.7 or 4.8 on Goodreads. And I remember Bryce O'Connor from Wraithmarked was like, dude, your first book being 4.8 is crazy. And I was like, yeah, but it's not, it's a warm audience, right? Like, and as it's picked up, like been talked about more and picked up a little bit more momentum, you start seeing those like harsher reviews come in who have like an expectation of like, you know, they don't know it's my first book and they don't care, right? Which is totally fair. Or, you know, or they're just like, this isn't what I'm looking for. And you start to get those things and it's like dropped way down. But like for a while, it was the same thing. It was in a cosm of like, these people knew my sense of humor. They knew my particular thing. And now that it's like got a more, not just like Andrew audience, people are, it gets like more harsh reviews, but like, okay. That also means that more people are reading it. So boo-hoo, what was me?
Yep. Well, I was just trying to talk to a friend about this, right? And I was like, dude, like, I was like, the more you open yourself up, the more you open yourself up to criticism is honestly what it is, right? And I was like, if you're going to do this thing and you want to go up as high as possible or, you know, sell as many books, I was like, you're going to get more 1-star reviews, DNFs than you'll ever imagine. I was like, you can't, you know, focus on that. People always ask me, like, you're not worried. I was like, nope, I'm actually just going to send out a query letter. Like at one point I'd like to query certain things, but like, I'm just going to send one out just to like, you know, get the rejection just so I can be in the club, you know, and then move on from there and do some indie stuff. But yeah, like that's just like one of the things that one of my friends just got his first 1-star review. And it was pretty ridiculous. And he was like, I did it.
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. I was saying to somebody recently that it's 3 stars that actually hurt a little bit for me.
Oh, yeah.
If I read, you know, because a lot of 1-stars will be like a sense, it's like, this book sucks. And you're like, all right, dude, that book's not for you. Like, it's fine. Okay, cool. You know, but then somebody will write a 3-star that's basically like, I almost love this book, but like this particular thing didn't work for me. And those are the ones where you're like, ah, man, like I almost had you. Like if I was a better writer, you know, like whatever. 1-star, I'm like, cool. It may have been a 3-star for you if I did something different, but like whatever. But a 3-star, those are the ones that sometimes I don't read. I'll read everything else. A 1-star, sure. A 5-star, obviously, you know, like, but the 3 stars, every once in a while, somebody will make a really good point, and I'll be like, nah, I don't really need to hear that one today. Actually, like, that's fine.
That's so interesting because as a teacher, I totally feel that because some kids just don't want to go into class or they're just not paying attention. But then there's one kid that like I'm almost pushing to brilliance, and I'm like, I know, right? I like effed up or something happened. I ran out of time. I was like, we were right there. So I totally get that. It's like
they're trying, but they just don't quite get it, right? Yeah. No,
those 1-stars, not much you can do about it, right?
And
that's like, I review like, and I tell people like, I'm like, if I didn't like your book, you know, like if I didn't like, and I've always found something as a writer now, like I can always find something.
Oh yeah,
right?
no,
but,
and
like,
it gets worse the more you go.
yeah. So I'm just like, my brother, he's like, and my best friend, he's like, they're like, you just do like a 3. I go, well, if it's below a 3 for me, I don't review it.
Yeah.
And that's or I'll try and find something because I just know how hard it is, and I'm like, I liked the cover enough and the blurb enough to pick it up. And if I read it, I feel like that at least got me, you know, so it's got at least got to be middle of the road. But that's again where I think 5 stars is always like, and I talk about it's a teacher too. It's like now we do a 4-point scale versus a 100-point, and I'm like 5 is probably too many stars. You know, we did that because of fine dining, I think, you know, and some other things.
Well,
know,
right, and books are owned by Amazon that sells products, right?
Yeah.
The other problem is that we're using the exact same system to rate art that we rate toasters with, and these are not the same thing. A 1-star book I didn't enjoy this. A 1-star toaster burnt my house down, right? Like these are not comparable scales, and yet we use them interchangeably, and it is
and Amazon doesn't this was driving me nuts recently. My friend shared a couple that tanked him, you know, and he's like, I'm like, show me what they were. I'm like, maybe it's something, you know, I can help you with or we can talk about. My order wasn't delivered on time. The book had a bet in it. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? I'm like, that's an Amazon thing. Not in this review. I'm like, go call customer service. Like, please.
Yeah, you should be able to reach out to them. Yeah.
They don't realize they're tanking everybody.
I've had a couple that were printed and they were like missing pages.
Oh my God.
Right? And so, but fortunately, nobody left negative reviews. They reached out to me. But like 2 or 3 times that it's happened, they've reached out to me like, hey, my book's missed. And I've been like, hey, the real book has it. just contact Amazon and tell them they printed it wrong, and it's all gotten sorted. But I have had that happen once or twice where they're like, a chapter's missing, and I'm like, and I like frantically run to, check, make sure it's still there, and I'm like, no, it's there. So fortunately, that's all worked out, but it's always been like,
It was like Patricia Briggs. They gave me this freaking, like this regular envelope with no anything. This one has bubble wrap, but nothing. And I was like so excited for the paperback, and they had just like left it on my doorstep in the rain and stuff. So luckily I just came home and caught it, but like I opened it up and it has this weird crease on it. And I just like read it. I was like, whatever. But like the last thing I'm going to do is like review Patricia Briggs.
Yeah, right.
On Amazon. For something
after reading this book.
It's God, Patricia. It's an awesome book too.
It's really just, losing her touch.
She doesn't bind her books properly.
Yeah, I know. She used to care. Like, it's...
That's awesome. Well, I know we talked a little bit about some interesting things. I find reviews just fascinating. Some people don't agree with me, and I'm just like, I just don't care. Like, I just want to read people's books and see where they're at. So that's where I was like really impressed with Soul Fraud in particular, and I really liked that it gripped me. I don't want to give anything away, but like there's one scene in particular at the start of the book that I really feel like you hooked me on. I don't think it's really a giveaway because it's really on
sort of like the thing, right? It's
like the thing, right? So do you mind talking to us a little bit about Soul Fraud and that series and just kind of like how you came up with that idea?
Yeah. Okay. So Soul Fraud is an urban fantasy series. It's set in LA. It is on that sort of not quite detective, but like noir side. Every like supernatural, like Dresden, all of these things. They're always solving sort of an insular thing in every series. And in the first book, the main character is a normal mortal. That's how he begins, just a normal guy. And on his 25th birthday, a demon appears, just to him alone, and is like, "Hey, what if we fix your life?" He's a big loser. Everything perfect. You get 10 years of bliss in exchange for your soul. Now, we've all seen that TV show, which I believe Matt actually, the main character is like, I've seen that episode of TV. Like, I'm good. Like, even I am not that down bad. And then the demon has a little bit of a breakdown. And he is really behind on his quota. He's under a lot of pressure from his managers. And he forges Matt's signature on the contract and then kind of scampers off into the night. And then Matt's life, like, completely 180s, just completely turns around. And he's like, that's not good. This, that convinces him that it's real, essentially. And then sets him on a course to learn about the supernatural world, to figure out how to get his soul back before time runs out, and makes a lot of friends and enemies kind of as he goes. Makes it worse, basically. And that's sort of the premise of the series. And then, in every book, there's sort of a thing that they're dealing with, working towards that goal, but they all kind of have their own little side as well.
I think that's perfect. I'm trying to figure out how to ask these questions without giving things away. It's really difficult for me. We probably should just like told people it's gonna be a spoiler one, but we'll do that later after I'll do like Dandelion Audit. I'll do a few like the rest of them. We can do that. It'll be real fun. I know Ben and some other people would love to, to come and ask questions. So we'll have to set that up.
That'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be really fun.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. So I guess the way I want to ask this is, as somebody who's writing urban fantasy themselves, I worry. Like particularly with my book 1 for my Monster Hunter series, I'm worried that I'm not going to set a good pace with entering people into my world. I'm worried I'm going to pull a Steven Erikson, no offense to anybody, Guards of the Moon, and just shove your booty in there, right? And people are going to drown a bit, and either you sink or swim mentality. You did not do that. You had a very gradual increase, and it felt like I was going up steps that were pretty equal until you get to a certain point, and then it's like, you took the elevator, and I felt that that rising action was like, damn. And by the time I got done with the book, I just bought everything. I was like, I'm just going to get to it soon, which I think is the reaction that hopefully you were going for, right?
100%. Yeah.
After the other ones. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious at how you try to set that pace and gave us a little bit more here with the world building, because I've read a lot of urban fantasy books. I felt like it was a very, very good pace. So that person with the review, if that was Soul Fraud, I would agree with them, because it really was like, did not stop. But there were also like little lulls, where you could kind of think about things just like, Matt was, but then we were going again. So I was kind of wondering how you did that with the world building pace, along with kind of with like the pace of the story.
For me, my favorite part about world building, what I like to do is I like to under-explain things and then zoom out, right? Like, to me, urban fantasy is the coolest when you're dealing with like what feels like a normal situation, and then the camera zooms out a level, and you see like, oh, there's more going on, right? That's very detective. It's very noir. It's very urban fantasy expectation, and I love it. I think that's my favorite part of the genre, outside of like the merging of reality and, you know, playing with like myths we're all familiar with. And so for me, the like guiding principle of the deck collection is Matt is smart enough to make decisions that are not inherently stupid, or like he never has a good decision to make, but he usually picks the decision that to the reader and to him seems like the most reasonable of the options presented to him, and it is wrong, right? And that's like where we go. So because he is exploring it as he goes, he's not like a lot of other urban fantasy series where he's already in the know. He gets to be a little bit more innocently ignorant in the series, and that puts him into a spot where I get to reveal it to him, and he's learning it organically rather than like info dumping it.
Yeah.
And so he does the best he can with the information he has, and then we zoom out. So every time he levels up, we go, okay, ta-da, that's not the top of the mountain. And in some ways, it's a lot like progression fantasy, right? Like it's a level up. There's not levels, but he reaches a new level of understanding. He becomes more informed. He becomes more aware. Okay, great. You're not done. So to me, that's the guiding thing. The second thing is that because he was not a wizard, he was not a warlock, you know, he wasn't already supernatural. There was not really much story to start with in an urban fantasy beforehand, right? It was like, cool, hooked, we're in. Now what do you do? And so that gives like a lot of urgency to what he does versus like, you know, a lot of the other ones that are more episodic in nature. I am not an episodic guy. I love urban fantasy, but I still come from like a high fantasy sci-fi background where like I want there to be a cohesive plot. I want us to be working towards something. And so to me, I leaned on that. And in fact, one of the criticisms of Soul Fraud is that it's not episodic enough. Like some of the like urban fantasy come out and they're like, he didn't wrap up anything particularly, right? Without giving too much of a spoiler. I would argue that there is a conclusion, but it is clearly like you couldn't just read Soul Fraud and be like the end, right? Versus like a lot of other urban fantasies are like, and the case is solved, the thing is done, and there is going to be more, but like you could stop right here. And so that was like a break from urban fantasy trope tradition. Which I didn't even realize. To me, I thought I'd done it enough, but I would say that's like maybe one of the complaints that like I don't necessarily agree or disagree with it, but like I didn't even think about it, right? I
didn't either. I was like, give me the next book.
Right, and that's what I wanted, right? Is I wanted to be like, we're going on a journey. The other ones are a little more, they have like, he's a little more in the know so that they have something he's dealing with in that book as well as this one. But the first one really only had like that thing. And so that was like an interesting lesson I learned, a criticism I received, that like, that's like an urban fantasy expectation.
That's so it's so interesting, just going back to Jim Butcher with Stormfront, where that was probably the case, right? But now so he helped to build that foundation, in my humble opinion. Same with Patricia Briggs, and then Kevin Hearn, and then now like the two of the Patricia and Jim are completely changing the game, and now I personally like the Dresden Files more, with them being more, you know, like he's doing the same thing you just said. He's more doing epic fantasy in an urban fantasy setting. So I do want to forewarn people, I am doing what Andrew is doing. So
I prefer it, right? I mean,
I do too. That's my type of urban fantasy.
I love Dresden. I don't know if you can see, they're just cut off, but I have like the whole set right there. Like, obviously, I love urban fantasy. He's the king. But the first few don't go, you know, it takes a minute to be like, oh, here's what's going on.
Summer Night or something like that. And then go back.
3 is sort of important, right? Like, I always say skip 2, but like, 3's got a couple things that just have like massive repercussions.
It's one of my favorites, I think.
Oh yeah, I mean it's tremendous. But yes, he's now at a point where he's like, we can just do whatever we want, right? And I do think that the expectation has evolved. I think also it was that TV grasped onto like urban fantasy for like Supernatural had 16 seasons, right? And all of them were like Monster of the Week. Like that really just got pushed into that kind of thing. And I mean, I loved Supernatural. It was so much fun. But even they towards the end started to be like, but there's a series, like there's another thing. And so I do think that as the genre has evolved, it's becoming more accepted, more expected. But that was at least, Soul Fraud is 4 years old at this point. So even when it came out, some people were like, this isn't as urban fantasy as I expected. And I was like, oh, okay.
Interesting. Well, but I just want to say to our audience though, like, like if you like urban fantasy, but you're like me, like I was looking for more things like Soul Fraud, and they weren't necessarily out there. And I was in a certain spot because I finished Kevin Hearn's Iron Druid Chronicles.
Sure. Yep.
Pretty much right away, like 10 years ago. Like I met him when I met Brandon Sanderson the same night. Patrick Rutherfus, Pierce Brown told me he thought he was going to sell a few of Red Rising. That was freaking awesome. That's my favorite story of all time.
What a smorgasbord of people.
I know, right? Brian McCullen was a Gunpowder Mage, his first book.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Michael J. Sullivan. Like
Kevin you were just in the
Kevin
room.
Was the man bringing everybody there. And
That's so funny.
Django Wexler had not signed his trad published deal yet. It was wild.
What a room. What a room of people.
I know, right? It was a Poison Pen Scottsdale thing. Started at 8:30 in the morning. Let me tell you, this thing was full in this little bookstore. I didn't leave till like 9:30 at night. Like they were closing up at 10, and I was like probably one of the last ones
That's awesome.
to leave. Yeah, but it was awesome. But like I had read Kevin's, which are very similar to, I would say, to your series, right? Where it's somewhat episodic, but it's more overarching, and you get more of the world. But it's like it keeps going, and it's pretty fast paced. But like you guys are a little different than Jim Butcher early. So I think that, if people like I'd say like book 7 of Dresden Files on, I'd say yours kind of matches a little bit more like that. If that
I have the good fortune of going after these gentlemen. And seeing some of the lessons they learned, right?
So fair.
Like those guys were all like pioneers, and I'm third generation or something, depending on how you count it. So I have read I've read a ton of urban fantasy. I really like I don't have it on my shelf. Why did I look? Stephen Blackmore's Eric Carter. Yeah, which is another like phenomenal.
He was so close to being in a project with me, but he had a thing. I was like, he goes, maybe the future. I was like, dude, I will save a spot for you. You just let me know. I love that series.
He also had the same thing, right? Like each one had sort of like a case or like a thing, but then it had like a bigger storyline that was building on. So I loved all of those series. Thought they were all phenomenal and how they played with it. So I definitely was informed by that. But then also coming from like my more like epic fantasy sci-fi roots, where I was like, but I want to plot, I want to drive forward, I want to be striving against something. And so those are the two things traditions I tried to blend. Whereas like, I think a lot of I think Jim and a lot of the guys who started in the beginning really loved like detective stories. And I was never a thriller reader. I was never a standalone. They can be great, but that's not like what got me excited, right? I was a Wheel of Time guy. I was like that kind of thing. So I think it was just mixing in some different flavors into the smoothie. But again, I have the good fortune of going third, or fourth even. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I had been pushing your book, Soul Fraud, and I've been telling people, they're like, what is yours like? I said, like this. And I said,
excellent.
I'm just like, it is, because, and I didn't realize it until I had, because I was almost done last year, and I was like making changes and stuff for my last draft, and now I had some feedback, but I was like, I guess somebody mentioned that to me. They're like, it's kind of similar, in taste, or, and one of my friends like, you kind of match with Angela a bit more in terms of like real building, or what you're trying to do. And I didn't realize it until I was all the way down with book 1, and I was like, oh, I guess so, and because I kind of wanted to do that supernatural thing, but like kind of some of the later, I'd say like after season 4, right, like you said,
sure.
Kind of more overarching, but that's what I like, and maybe it is the fantasy background, and maybe even some of those science fiction, like, arcs and series where they're a little bigger. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that that's a really good way to do it, I think. But I even have it on the back of my prequel for my Monster Hunter. I said, he's no PI. Just to throw it out there, right? That like, he's not an investigator. He gets, taught certain things. But so I just thought it was cool for me, to, read a character that was, similar, where it's, he's not Harry Dresden, or, he's not a detective, but to also see how you kind of went through, like the story and how they were able to figure it out. And I did like where, like you said, right, like Matt's not he's not the master of that world, right? So he's got to find people to help him, which I really liked, and I loved how you did that blend in there too. That was just like, I thought that was really well done. So yeah, I really liked how you got to different points in the story and like kind of pointed the way, so to speak. But it made me think, like, for my personal character, I was like, maybe I need like a younger character, or somebody who he's gonna explain the world to, or something like that. Because I just really liked how some of the people that helped Matt did that, and it just it felt like we slowly, like an onion, or the shade was kind of taking off a rise, but then get to a certain point and it matched the story, I thought, really well, and you were just going, so it was super cool.
I agree, and that was also the thing, is that like the stereotype at the time was like there's some sort of like a mid-level wizard, practitioner, druid, necromancer, take your pick, right?
Yep.
And so I was like, what if he was just a guy?
Yeah,
right. Yeah. We'll start at zero. And that, I think, has let me have more fun in how we get sucked in.
Yeah. Well, it's cool too, because I had a friend ask me, he's like, what did you like? I said, I think not just like like what I just said, like how you kind of set the pace of the story and the world building, but like you left certain, I actually like that you left certain threads for Dandelion Audit, because I was like, there was one thing in particular, I was like, holy crap, Andrew, I'm so mad at you right now, because I gotta pick this up right away. And it was a good thing, because I was like, it really made me, and I just bought the rest of them. So when the novella came out, I was like, yes, like I bought that too. I didn't even look at it, I just saw that you had
that has
it.
my favorite cover art. I have it. Let me see. Here we go. This
such a cool cover. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Chris McGrath does these.
Oh, I love him. He's
right. I mean, he's the king. And you were saying very nice things about the cover, but I just am fortunate enough to work with the best of the best, because he does Dresden. So the story is, have you ever seen the original cover of Soul Fraud? Actually,
I have actually. Yep,
okay.
I did. Yeah. And it's funny because like I had it on my list, and then when you did that one, I was like, excuse me, yes please, and that's when it popped up, because the algorithm knew about my thing with him, and I follow everything, I share everything. Yeah. So I just want you to know, it caught me with the updated cover.
That's so funny. So the reason that happened is Bryce O'Connor from Wraithmarked. He was one of the first authors I ever met. We became good friends. I published Soul Fraud, and we were at Dragon Con. And he was like, listen, man, I'm going to give you some like blunt feedback. I like your cover. I like the idea. It doesn't work for urban fantasy. You're not going to sell books as an indie. You need to change it. I said, okay, I'm open to it. Like, that's fine. I was trying stuff. I tried some of those more hyper risk. Urban fantasy sometimes can hit like an uncanny valley for me, which I like. I tried to find a couple of those, and I just couldn't get anything I liked. And so I had gone with like an abstract thing. And he's like, just doesn't work for indie. And he's like, but let me help you. Like, I know the artists. We will find you the guy. We'll make it happen. Put together a little lookbook. Show me what you like. And I will help you find somebody who can do it, and we'll recover it, and it'll really help you. And I said, okay, I trust you. So I went home and I put together a little lookbook, and it was Eric Carter, Dresden Files, James Butcher's series, and something else, right? And I sent it to Bryce, and Bryce emailed me back like 10 minutes later, and he's like, these are all the same guy. I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, his name's Chris McGrath. He's the best. Here's his email. Just email him. And I was like, oh, I feel like an idiot. I had no idea. And so then I emailed Chris and was like, so apparently the only artist I'm interested in having do my book is you. And he was like, yeah, I love doing indie projects. Let's do it. And then we were off to the races. But the whole time I was like, what is happening? Like,
Dude, that's amazing. That's an amazing story.
Like, I had no idea. I'm just bopping along, being an idiot,
Well, but he's got a bit, but like that, I love. Just gonna say, Andrew, to be fair, I love his covers. I follow him everywhere.
Yeah.
There were a few recently that I didn't know that he, was like had released, because he didn't have them up yet, but the companies did, right, for the cover reveal. So a couple people, there was 3 recently where I was like, oh, dude, I messaged him. I'm like, I love your cover. I was like, who was that? They're like, Chris McGrath. And then I had the same thing. I was like, son of a gun, man. I
can't keep getting away with it, dude. Yeah.
He's my favorite. But he's got a different style. Like, he can
because he actually uses a model. He takes a real photo.
Comedian.
I had no idea. Like, when he started explaining to me the process, so there is a guy you know, this guy exists. This is a real man. And every once in a while, it's really funny. He'll tag me on Instagram, like holding up the book, like I'm on a book, and it's so funny. That was like, I love it. I love it to death. It's so funny. He's like a model in New York. It's so great. It makes my day.
That's amazing.
I just think it's so, but so like he's one of a kind. I don't know anybody else who does that.
Yeah.
And then I think I sort of accidentally triggered a like cover race war in urban fantasy, because then everyone was like, well, we got to arm up, I guess. Like
you cold warned us.
Yeah, I did. I had no, I hadn't been, because then Shamie Stovall started using them too for covers. There's another urban they're gorgeous. But every time like Shamie will post the next Time Warlock coming out, and I'll DM her like, nice cover, and she'll be like right back at you. It's so funny. I like it cracks me up that
Didn't
like
you just do that on TikTok?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Yep. All the time. It's so funny. Philip C. Quaintrell, who writes The Time of Dragons.
Oh,
Chris is doing those covers. They're gorgeous.
Yep. So great.
This is my favorite story. It's the first time I met Philip was at Dragon Con with Bryce, and Bryce came over and I was saying hi, and Philip was with him, and I said, "Oh, hi, I'm Andrew." He shook my hand and he went, "Andrew, what?" And I said, "Givler." And he went, "Yeah, I knew it. I knew it was you." He's like, "I'm waiting on my cover, and it's because Chris is finishing your Self-Rod cover." And I was like, "That's so funny." And so whenever one of us gets a cover, like he just announced he just got like his next cover from Chris, I was like, "Oh, we didn't wait this time." And it's so funny. It's just, Chris has just become like the guy, and he's just the nicest dude. I love him to pieces. And I have like never given him any notes ever. I think like once ever. But it was, every time he's like, he'll send me this and be like, "What do you think?" And I'll be like, "Awesome, man. Thanks."
Stamp it. Let's go. Next in the mail. That's awesome. Well, it's like him, Felix Ortiz, and Jeff Brown are like my top three. Like they just do the most amazing work. I feel so bad 'cause I'm blanking on my fourth one. I'm just blanking because somebody just gave me her name. I was like looking into her recently a couple weeks ago. I was like, I didn't realize, right? One of the guys that did my first urban fantasy series that's coming out for my Monster Hunter did this amazing. I saw him do something. And I was like, dude, I'm like trying to figure out who he was. And I just contacted the author. I was like, "Who is your artist?" They're like, "Oh, Tom Edwards of Tom Edwards Design." So I went with him, and he just made me the most gorgeous cover. And I was like, "This is awesome." But I said to him, I was like, "It's really hard to find, like this type of art, other than Chris McGrath, Jeff, or Felix." And I had asked a couple of them. They were like, "Dude, I'm slammed." I was like, "I totally understand why you're slammed. I will get a hold of you 2 years in advance for the next one or next time." Or
my first phone call with Chris was amazing, because this was like, all I had out was Self-Rod, right? I'm like new to the industry. I'm just like bumbling along, trying stuff. And Chris is like, he's like, "Yeah, I'd love to work with you. I'm doing this like Dune special edition, and then I have to do the next Dresden, and then I got to do the next James Butcher. I might be able to squeeze in." I was like, one of these things is not like the other, dude.
It's like Brandon Sanderson of art.
Yeah. It was just like, oh, yeah, man, whenever you think I can fit between all these juggernauts, you let me know, and I will gladly take whatever you can do, Yeah, exactly. And then he did, and so the Self-Rod cover is brilliant. I love it. And then he's been doing the rest ever since. And every time, it's better. And I'm proud, because every time I send him something, he's like, "Ooh, that'll be really fun to do." And then he comes back and is like, "I had a lot of fun with this one." And whenever he says he has fun with it, they're gorgeous. So I'm like, great, perfect.
That's awesome. That's a great compliment, because he does amazing work. So that's awesome. I think
So he just did the Sleep Debt covers, the most recent one.
Oh my gosh,
And this is the one he said he had a lot of fun with, and he sent it to me, and I was like, "Yeah, it looks great, man. I got nothing." Like, thank you.
So cool. I saw that pop up. I was like, "Yes, please." Amazon knows me.
Yep. They know us all.
Yeah, I don't care about the other products, but when they send me a book, I'm like,
"Yep,
thank you for the notification."
You're like, "Correct, yes, thank you."
Yeah. Bingo, bingo. Winner, chicken dinner. Well, that's awesome. Well, I know we're kind of winding down on time here, Andrew, but this has been great. But I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, in terms of, do you mind telling us about Ironbound? I know, you got more of those coming out, and maybe tell us what that's about. And God, talk about another amazing cover.
Yeah, no,
actually for it.
This one also is gorgeous. So this is Ironbound. This is a Roman Empire inspired progression fantasy. It's published by Aethon and Vault. And actually, I don't know if you've seen this. This is book 2, which is coming out.
I love
next
that
month.
cover too.
Yeah. No, they make me very happy. This is the chunkiest book I've ever written. It's like holding it is every time I'm like, oh, geez. So it's a Roman Empire inspired progression fantasy. It's not our world. It is set, in this world where magic exists, but the way that you get the ability to do magic is this sort of quicksilver-like metal falls from the sky, like asteroids. It gets collected, and then people can put it in their body like a parasite, and it gives you the ability to bind to an element and then manipulate it. So magic is a limited resource, and so in this empire, the magic all belongs to the Empress. As children, as you come of age, you can compete to be sort of like a member of the elite society and get given access to magic. And that's where the main character starts. So he's like coming of age. He's about to go through his thing. And then a bunch of stuff goes wrong, putting him on a dark path that needs some like justice and revenge and that kind of thing. And to do that, he needs to get stronger, right? Because progression fantasy is about needing, like how power works and needing power. And so without any spoilers, that's kind of like the direction it goes, is that like things go wrong. He gets sort of an atypical thing. It puts him in a bad spot under a lot of judgment. There's a lot of fallout, and he has to figure out how to kind of navigate that and get strong enough to make it right.
Well, that's awesome. Can I be honest with you, Andrew?
Yeah.
When that cover came out, I saw Aethon. I love their company. I love everybody, that's connected to it. So many authors I've talked to, like yourself, who are in the company. It's one of my favorites. Love the books they produce. That cover came out. I saw your name on it, and as soon as I just bought it. I didn't even look at it. I didn't look at the blurb. I just looked at the cover, and I was like, "That's gonna be sick." I was like, "I love Soul Fraud in your world building," and like somewhere you had tagged it as what you said, like Roman level progression, and like I was like, "Yeah, cool, bought."
It's a little bit of like the smoothie has a lot of things in it, right? But I think like 2 of the base ingredients are like Jim Butcher's Codex Alera and Will White's Cradle put together.
Yep.
Kind of.
And I saw you said that somewhere, and I was like, yes, please.
Yeah. And so like those are some real like deep influences on it for me.
That's awesome.
A lot of people's, it's in first person present, so it gets a lot of Will the Many Red Rising, which is like I really like those books. Those are true, but like the foundational like influence for me is like when I was 14 years old, I went to my local library every week, and I would come in with a stack of books, and I would leave with a stack of books. Like the librarians all knew me by name. They were always excited to see me. I don't know how many 14-year-old boys were going to the library regularly at that point in time. And when I was 14 years old, I walked in, and the head librarian at my branch pulled me aside. She was like, "Hey, come here." And she was like, "This book just came out. It's written by an author who's really popular. It is more in line with what I think you like to read. And so I reserved it for you so you could have it." And it was Furies of Calderon. And it was like, oh, yep, right up my alley. And so I actually have been trying to hunt down that librarian to thank her. But I can't find her. So I'm actually quite sad about it.
That sucks.
Yeah. I went back to all the old branches, but it's like, it's been 20 years, it's just, yeah. Nobody works there who knew the people who worked there, and it's tough. But
well, it's so funny you say that, because my librarian worked at my elementary school. She then started working at the local branches and stuff, and she handed me my first fantasy book, which was Shadowdale: Forgotten Realms. I'm blanking on the author, but the first book 1 in the Avatar trilogy, and then from there I just read the next 3, and I just started buying. Like I have most of them still behind me, but yeah, she handed me my first like adult fantasy. It was clean fantasy, but still, I absolutely loved it. But my mom actually saw her about a year ago. She goes, "I have to tell you, my son's written 4 books, and I need your address because he's gonna send them to you signed." She was
that's
like,
awesome.
So happy. So I hope you find her, Andrew.
I'm still looking.
If we need to, we will TikTok the crap out of
yeah.
and
No,
find her. Like
I really would love to. Because it's like such a like foundational moment for me.
Yeah.
And dude, librarians, they do good work.
Yeah. Like how many 14-year-old boys, right, can remember the person that gave them one thing, right? Like anything versus this one thing. yeah, it means a lot too. I think, yeah, because mine did the same thing. She's like, "Hey, I think you're really gonna enjoy this based off of your reading." So, yeah, I hope you find her. Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be awesome. Internet, spread this stuff.
Do your
okay?
thing.
Yeah, do your thing. Yeah.
If you know anybody who was working at Atlanta Library in San Antonio in the early 2000s, let me know.
That's interesting. All right, well, hopefully we get out there.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I hope to find her. That's really awesome. Well, so I got to ask this question because a friend sent it to me because he knew that I was gonna, be talking to you and stuff, and they couldn't make it today. But their schedule got changed. They were so mad. Their work schedule got changed. I said it's going to be a recording too, buddy. You can
We'll preserve it.
Yeah. Reserve it. Yeah. We'll stamp it for you. But they had asked me to ask you what were some of the things that you did that were similar in terms of this urban fantasy series and then this level progression fantasy series, and what were some of the things you had to do that were kind of were obviously different? Like, what were some of the things that you were able to kind of carry over into that smoothie, right? Like those key ingredients that you felt were you, but what were some new things you added?
I think the biggest difference is urban fantasy. One of the easier reasons to write urban fantasies, you don't have to explain a lot of things, right? We have cell phones, we have cars, we have. I can hand wave a lot of stuff and be like, you know what I mean. But as soon as you switch to a different world type thing, that goes out the window. And what was actually fun about using Roman influence is I leaned on it pretty heavily, so I got away with still being able to use some of that same sort of familiarity.
Yeah.
Which means that I get to do a little bit of the urban fantasy style world building, which I really like, which is you think you understand, you live in this, he starts out in a town and then he learns more about the world, but I can still sort of set that same sort of society and then zoom out a lot, and that's what I'm still kind of trying to do. So I feel like the world building is similar in how I like to drip feed it to you. I let him make decisions based off what he knows at the time, but there will always be something else that goes up. So it's also much less funny. Matt uses comedy as a defense mechanism, right?
Yeah.
Castor, who's the main character of Ironbound, he is more direct. He is more he can be funny, but it's not his immediate response to something. His friends are funnier. He is often the target of the comedy rather than he being the one kind of cracking the jokes. And his narration is not he doesn't encounter something, he's not that's stupid. Matt's first reaction to anything that happens is that's dumb, right? And that one is hard. The hardest part about writing between the two of them is remembering that Matt responds to things with comedy and Castor responds to things with aggression. And these are whenever I switch between them, I have to. It's a chapter or two before I'm back into their head.
I can see that. Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I could totally see that because there's a couple scenes. I don't want to say them because they're awesome in Soul Fraud, but there's a couple times in particular where everything's hitting the fan and Matt's makes the funniest joke, and he's I know this is inappropriate, but I just can't help myself. I'm just so nervous and this is dangerous. I don't know how to cope with it. I was dying, man. So I could definitely understand where that would be difficult. To switch back and forth. I had to remember that about something I'm currently writing for a project. I had two characters that are similar in they're monster hunters essentially, but they're a little different, male, female, they're from different countries and stuff. And I've been really trying to distance that, right? So I think the last round I got better, but that's the thing I'm going to ask my readers. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard, really especially hard when you're just in that mode in the same story, or if you have two characters like you said, they're very different. So
I don't know if you're writing first person, but that's the other thing too, is that when it's the narrator themselves, right? That you writing first person. One of the things I love about first person is that it's a imperfect narration, right? It's the perspective of the character. But it means essentially I have to act, right? I am not writing it as Andrew. I am writing it as Matt. And so I have to weirdly become him a little bit.
Yep.
And then in order to have, when I'm saying I'm actually saying I as Matt. And that is it's almost like that acting thing of switching characters where you have to become the thing. And that's tricky.
Yeah. No, I could totally see that. But I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, that was the thing I was having trouble with doing in particular, and I kept thinking like I used to like I wanted to act, right? So my students all the time they're like, you should act as an adult. So I do it on here. I go, I act like I like you guys all the time. It's fine, you know. They're like, you love us. I'm like,
what grade are you
see, I'm
teaching?
an amazing actor. If any of you are watching, I was just kidding.
What grade are you teaching?
I have 9th through 12th graders.
Nice.
They're
Okay.
absolutely amazing. Like this was one of the weeks where normally at the time of school year, I'm like, I don't want to do anything, but like they are so interested in this and like what I do, and they like push me. Like when I don't want to freaking write anymore, Andrew, they're like, dude. One of my girls called me out the other day. She goes, she's a sophomore. She goes, you're not gonna have this book done before I graduate, are you? I said, no, I'm gonna have it done, right? I said, I'm gonna have it done now, like when you come in the fall. So there's gonna be a copy signed for you on your desk when you come in the fall. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
so, yeah, they keep me honest, but yeah, there was a couple there like they check my covers. I read stuff to them. You know, I'm like, oh, do you think this
That's so
board's
cool.
okay? Yeah, like it's fun, right? Because you know they have hopes and dreams, and I think it's good to to show the ups and downs of mine.
Yeah.
And I think it's good just to be like, dude, I have so much to do, but like I'm gonna get this thing done. Yeah, and it's just been really fun.
When I remember when we were kids, when we were in school, like so much of the conversation around pursuing artistic jobs was like, you'll never make it. It's impossible.
Yep.
Like it was very negative. And I mean, it's hard, right? Like it is not as linear as going and getting a corporate 9 to 5, right? You have to want it. You have to do a lot of things. But I think it's probably really cool to have a teacher who is like showing them that, right? Like the life
Yeah.
lesson is that you can keep trying. The life
Yeah,
lesson
yeah.
is that like the journey doesn't stop and you should try things. And if you're passionate about something, you can make it happen. I think that's very cool, dude.
It's been fun because like I have kids that are very artistic and their parents are like you said, their parents are like, oh, you're never going to make any money. I said, that's weird because I know this guy, Chris McGrath, that does really well, like I would
Yeah.
assume with how many covers, right? Or I know my cover artists are doing, really well and they should get paid for their skill, right? But I'm like, this whole concept of, like just because it's artistic means, I told him too, I'm like, I said, I have a normal job. I said, I thought I'd be okay. I want to be an illustrator at first, like Chris McGrath, which is why I think I love art so much.
That's fair, yeah.
Did some stuff to my hand, so probably will never get to that point. But I'll get back, but like I love doing the artistic things, and I had switched to writing in college when I had switched from art. And yeah, but I'm trying to explain to them, I'm like the people that have the hardest corporate jobs that I talk to, or that are in the indie or traditional fields, are people like my best friend who are in the tech sector, and they're like one of my friends like, I feel like a robot. He goes, I have to come home and write. He's like, that's where I get my joy. He goes, it's great pay and stuff. He goes, I get the money to advertise my books and stuff, but he's like, it's very difficult just to do that. And I was
Yeah.
I think it's I told him, I'm like, just because you're not making money at that thing doesn't mean you can't go and play your guitar, or have a band or something like that. I said, do what you love to do, and you'll feel really good about yourself, and you'll just enjoy things a lot more. I enjoy my job a lot more now, knowing that I get to talk to somebody like you, tonight, and I get to just do fun things and help other authors and stuff. And
Well, and
I can't
there's a
wait to
ton of
join the
authors who
ranks
have
even.
stories like that, right? Like,
Yeah.
Seth Ring was an IT manager for a long time. Cahill was like a scientist. I think so was Bryce O'Connor. I think he was like a kinesiologist or something like that.
Yeah.
You meet all these guys who like have now gotten to pursue a creative career, but they all had this other thing. And the thing in common is that like all of us couldn't not do this thing.
Yeah.
Right. I was corporate. I worked for like a big tech firm. I designed like tech products, and I hated it. And then I did YouTube. But I always wanted to write, and that in some ways YouTube distracted me from writing. And when I finally sat down and forced myself to actually finish Soul Fraud, I was like, oh, why haven't I been doing this? This is this is where I need to be. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's like you should always. I think teaching everybody that like it's okay to pursue it, it's okay to try it, it's okay to experiment.
Yep.
That's so not opposite of what I was taught, because my parents were like they encouraged me artistically, but they're also like, but it'll never work. They're like, you should be an artist, but also get a job. Right? Yeah. So I can't complain too hard, but like I'd say the general like stigma, at least when we were growing up, was like, oh yeah, that'll never happen.
Well, it's funny because like Jim Carrey being a comedian, he talks about it. People should check it out. It's like one of the greatest motivational things. He had a graduation speech from his college that first college that he graduated from, yeah, he talks about his father and how his father wanted to be a comedian like him, but he went for the safe route to be an accountant. And when he was 11 years old, his father got fired from that job, and then they did whatever they could to survive for like the next 5 or 6 years. And he talks about that. He's like, one of the greatest lessons I learned from my father is you could fail at what you don't want to do, so you might as well do what you love. So I was like, yeah, I tell my students that all the time. I was like, look, I'm like, it might be hard. Like Peter Dinklage, right? Like,
Yeah.
That's a great example. He's like about to get kicked out of his apartment, and then gets his Game of Thrones gig, and look at him now, like he's on Broadway and just doing absolutely amazing in Hollywood. So
That
And,
actually
look
happened to
at
me too.
Adrian Tchaikovsky, right? Like he was like before Children of Time, he was literally like on Wizards, Words, and Words and saying, hey, I'm gonna give this one more year, and if I don't do something this year, I'm just gonna get another job and just call it quits. And then he wrote Children of Time, and then boom, like he's on with Adrian M. Gibson and MJ Kuhn like right now.
Oh, is he?
Greta.
Yeah.
So yep. I just saw that before you and I got started. So and I'm like, and
The two
I think he's
Adrians
so
brought
inspirational.
together. That's
Yeah, I know. Can the universe handle it? We haven't. We're still talking, so I guess we were okay.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I even had the same thing where I had an opportunity to go work for a YouTuber who was going to really help accelerate my career, but the salary was pretty low. And I had a gig that was paying pretty well, that was not going well, but it paid really well, and I was miserable. And literally my YouTube friend made a job offer to me, and I was like, you're really irresponsible of me. Like, I want to do it, but it's stupid. And I was like, let me think about it. And that he called me at like 5 p.m. that night, right? 8 a.m. the next morning, I get a call from the COO of my company, and they're like, we went wildly in the red last month. You're fired.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh. Well, I guess it's not irresponsible for me to take the job offer I have pending.
That was life helping you out, man.
Yeah, no, it was like it's not what's the saying, when God closes the door, he opens a window.
Yeah.
I got shoved out the window. It was like, go. And I was like, okay. And then, within a couple years, I was doing YouTube full time, and have been, working for myself creatively ever since. But that was literally like, there was a moment one day where it was like, hey, idiot, you're going to go this way, actually. And it was like, okay, we're going.
I get that all the time. Like, now I just know. I'm just like, okay, fine, I'll just do what you want me to do. Or
Yeah.
Whoever's doing this, I'm like, whatever. I could just see the signs now. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, whatever.
Just
And
big
now
blinking
it's
like arrow, like turn left. You're like, okay.
I'm actually really glad, because if I had not, I actually saw a big, bright, blinking arrow, because I almost got a job from Michigan. I almost got a job in North Carolina. They offered it to me, and it was like 20 grand more than I was getting in Arizona. And I was like, something didn't feel right. Went to Arizona, met my wife 3 weeks later, and that district that I was going to work for in North Carolina and Charlotte got so dinged because everybody was doing fraud. So I avoided jail time, prison without knowing it, and then met my wife. Yeah, so.
Yep. That's a good fork in the road you took there.
Yeah,
That's a good fork in the road.
Or my mom, she's always like, dude, if something isn't meant to be now, it's not gonna happen. It will later. Something better come along. I'm like, dang, was she right? So yeah,
no kidding. That's crazy.
Pay attention. Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
Well, I know we're winding down on time here, Andrew, but this has been really fun. But I gotta ask you before we go, if you had like one piece of advice for other authors and creatives that are watching or see this recording later, what would be something that you would tell them? What would be something that you would want them to know?
Man. I think a lot about when I was in college. Jim Butcher had a live journal blog that had a bunch of writing advice on it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he said, one of the chapters or like posts was, the title was something like, "There's no substitute for butts and seats," which is that like nothing else matters. The job of writing is writing. And I think he and then Stephen King's On Writing basically also just had like a thing that's like, just do it.
Yep.
Like, writing is worth doing poorly. Like, if you are hung up on the thing of like, what I'm writing isn't good enough or it's not working. I write stuff that I don't like all the time. I write stuff that doesn't work. I write stuff that I delete, and that is part of the process. And if you learn to be okay with being bad at it, you will eventually get better at it.
I think that's amazing advice, Andrew, because I have learned recently that no matter how much I plan or outline, I'm still a discovery writer, and I have.
I'm
I
a very discovery writer,
Right,
so
yeah.
yes.
So I'm like, I just have to word vomit, and then I know I'm gonna have to get more organized, but I know I'm gonna have to do, and now I'm getting better, right? But like, I know I'm gonna have to do multiple drafts, but I'm learning my process, and it's funny that you said that because my friend and I just talked about that reflectively, and he's like, dude, nothing beats your butt in the seat. He's like, the more you're there, the better you're gonna get. So I think that's like perfect advice. So
I recently I was writing the third Ironbound book, and at the end of the second act, I think I wrote 3 different ends of the second act. And I didn't know they were wrong. Like on paper and my sort of like little like, and then this is what I think happened. Seemed fine. And as I was writing it, I hated it. And I didn't know that until I like saw it.
Yep.
Right. I'm not a visualizer. I don't work like that. I saw it and I was like, this sucks. This is not surprising. It's not different. It's not in keeping with the theme of what this series is. And so I deleted it. But I had to write it to know that it was not the right puzzle piece
exactly.
for it.
Yep.
And that, sure, it's wasted work, but I also didn't make a mistake. So I ended up with something I liked because of it.
Well, my friend would say,
yeah.
one of my friends would say, like, it's not though, right? Because it's like you're climbing up a mountain. So you get to here, and it's like you just have to do that sometimes to get to the other side. And that's what me. I was like, I'm not efficient. I'm wasting words or time. But it's like he's like, you're not. And I had to really come. This year, I think, really came to that realization that he's just right. Like I'm still getting better. I'm still improving. And, but the end is the product, right? As long as the product's better, that's really what matters. So
yeah,
I think that's really good advice.
Be willing to go back and fix it. And you will be so free. I write chapters all the time, and I'm like, ooh, the future me is going to hate me for that. And then, like, off we go. Like,
and now you guys know why my prequel novella is not out yet, because Past Dan said that. So,
I'm paying for some big sins right now, where I was like, yeah, we'll fix that later.
Yeah, those little parentheses. You're like, you got this.
yeah, pretty much.
I'm gonna start saying to myself, just do it. Put that button in the seat. Like, you got it, man.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome, Andrew. This has been. Excuse me. Losing my voice this week, man.
Oh, man.
This has been absolutely amazing. I wanted to have you on for a while, really, since I saw your updated cover for Soul Fraud, and I was so happy to read the book, really enjoy it. Like I said, I'm trying to get on Dandelion Audit literally next month with Ben Shankman's Let Sleeping Gods Lie. Hoping I get my arcs. Yeah, I really, really love the book. Ironbound, obviously, I'm just going to do that because that's just my kind of thing. I'm a history teacher. Anything with Roman in it, like you had me at Roman, as they would say. But, I really appreciate
Same, honestly. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you for 10 seconds, but just, when the meme was going around, they're like, oh, men think about the Roman Empire every day. I was writing Ironbound when that came out. And so one of my good friends texted me and she's like, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And I was like, constantly. I don't. And she was like, I don't believe you. And then Ironbound came out and she read it and she was like, okay, I might believe you, actually. But yeah, literally, I was like knee deep in this book when that like meme came out, and I was like, guilty.
That's so awesome. My friend asked me, and my wife asked me, and at like some restaurant we were at, and I pulled up like one of my historical urban fantasies. It's gonna be like a prequel to one of my monster hunting crews, and they're like from a lost Roman legion. They're like, no way. I'm like, I think this meme is very true.
Yeah, no, I was like, yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. My brother and I share Gladiator memes like all the time, and
that's what it is. I'm convinced that it's that Gladiator came out when we were boys, and that movie just like
it's amazing.
Permanently seared into all of our brains. I was entertained. Exactly.
That's so awesome. Yeah, that's hilarious. Oh man, yeah, I can't wait for that one too. So, like I said, I didn't even look. I saw the cover. Athon had shared it. You had shared it. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna buy that and read that.
The brand is good. The brand is good. We'll take that.
You guys should be more like me. You won't have a lot of money, but your friends will be happy because they'll have it instead.
Listen, I got bills, okay? So
yeah,
buy the books.
Well, I want to remind people, Andrew, to check out, your YouTube channel, subscribe, check out, the description here. You guys can find all of Andrew's book and social links. I am like a detective. Anything that you guys have where I think somebody, will, buy a product or it looks cool, I put it in there. So if you guys could make sure you do that, but be like me. I have already done my review on Soul Fraud. Just, I do that on Amazon. On Audible, on Goodreads, but it's not my actual review. I have a longer review that I'm filming. I have notes for, so I will definitely share that with you guys. So definitely be on the lookout. I'm hoping to have those ones from that sector of my reading list from last year up end of next month. But make sure if you are, when you're reading these products or listening to them, please make sure you're reviewing them for all of our authors. It helps everybody out supremely. I've just found out recently only 1% of Amazon book buyers, whether it's Audible or Kindle, actually review products. So if you guys could continue that as our theme, it would be really good. But Andrew, this has been so awesome. I am going to message you later and a couple people, and we are going to figure out the spoiler edition.
Yes, let's
and
do
have
it.
a live chat, because I think that would be one of the most fun things that we'll ever do on this channel. So I'm definitely going to be contacting you about that for this summer, and with the rest of you peeps, we'll let you guys know when that is. But I think that'll be super fun. But Andrew, thank you so much. I really hope you have a great rest of the night, my friend.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Chat
Anytime.
soon.
See you guys.